The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find. The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style.
Hello and welcome to the Big H Podcast. My name is Mike Heise. I'll be your host for the day. And today my guest is Principal of Quest Elementary, Mr. Derek Warren. Derek, it's great to have you along.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're
Good
welcome.
to see you again.
You too. Truth be told, I know Derek when he was a teacher over at Village Elementary. We taught in the same grade level. And Derek, I could tell early on you were destined for higher spots in education. Not that any day is typical in the life of a principal, but try to pass on to our viewers, what is a day in the life of Derek Warren?
Well, to be perfectly honest, it starts when you wake up and, the first thing that you're looking for, and this might be a sign of the times, but the first thing you're looking for are all the classrooms filled, right? Because it's, for those that aren't in education, we have had sub shortages since the COVID pandemic or whatever. And so it's been a lot of, trying to make sure every day that classrooms are filled and that we are good to go and stuff like that before the day begins and stuff. And, and then in the morning, you obviously, you wake up, you try to do some self-care and, because you just need to be on your A game. You're going to get a lot of questions and concerns and you're going to be doing a lot of problem solving from the moment you arrive at work and everything. So really trying to, take some time to, sharpen the saw, if you will, and just, breathe and, get yourself pumped up for the day and stuff. And, and then you get to school and you're on pretty much, you check your emails, you go and look through your to-do list and your schedule for the day. And, and that first 30 minutes before kids arrive, it's a lot of, all right, we need this class filled, this class filled, this class filled. You're working with your secretary, maybe prepping for a meeting, or just trying to get yourself organized. So, and then once the kids come, you're hitting the ground running. It's go time. It's every day is different. Every day is a new adventure, if you will. And I think that's what I really loved about it. Like there's no monotony. It's, every day there's, a new issue or some type of need that pops up that you haven't thought of before or haven't dealt with before. So you're constantly being stretched and pushed and, problem solving and, so.
You talked a little bit about self-care, and I don't want you to get into the nitty-gritty of what's life like at home. What do you do for self-care? What do you recommend to your staff and other people to, you got to take care of yourself first and then job?
Yeah. I think, we're in this day and age where everyone is glued to a smartphone. And with that, when you're working and, in my role, and I think in the role for teachers and stuff, if you don't have a boundary, you're going to be getting remind messages or emails all hours of the night, So I think first things first, you got to really have those boundaries of like, no, this is my time to shut down a little bit and take care of the mental health, take care of, just doing nothing, just some quiet time. So I think it starts with that. We are lucky here in Hilton, like, Dr. Kasork, our superintendent, he's always pushing us as administrators to kind of set that tone and to like, because that trickles down to teachers and making sure that people know, like, listen, when you're home, be home, be with your family, take care of you and everything, because, with those devices in our hands all the time, it's really easy to always be in work mode, and to be going back and forth and, and that can get real tricky. So I think it's that coupled with, trying to make time for exercise as much as possible. The perfect day, which I am far from all the time, but like if I could picture a perfect day, I'd wake up and I'd go to the gym. I go to a gym here in town and, lift weights a few times a week or do some type of cardio exercise. You know, taking some time to read in the morning or journal or write, and just really, kind of going through the internal stuff. And I find that, when I make time for exercise in the morning or movement and I follow some strict routine or whatever, that my day is better. My thinking's clear, my energy's up, my mood is better, everything. And it helps me to be a better leader, helps me to be a better dad, better husband, better to myself, so I don't know. I just think it's, you hear a lot about self-care and it's kind of gotten this, trendy feel to it,
Exactly.
but it's, I just think it's a little deeper than that. I think it's, it's about, being able to be there for yourself and your family and your kids and, and a school community, and so, the better I take care of myself or the more I take care of myself, the better version I can give to people. So that's the goal.
And I do agree that Dr. Kasorek has sent that message to staff and his people that he leads over to care of yourself and all that. I like what you said about setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to, this is your podcast.
Yeah.
When you talk about journaling, that's interesting because I don't think people realize what journaling can do. What have the benefits been for you when you journal?
Wow. It's perspective, right? Like, so it starts with this awareness that we all have dialogue in our head. Like we're constantly talking to ourselves.
Absolutely.
And there's a voice that talks and that voice has been conditioned. It's from the past. It's from our relationships. It's from years of experiences and our belief systems and our values. And, so I think it's like a real anchor, because there's things that, there's little battles that we all go through that when you sit down and process it and put it on paper, it feels better. Right. Sometimes, even with journaling, like I love to just like write down, start with things I'm grateful for, and that is like the most unnatural thing sometimes because it's really easy.
Right.
Like we have this judgment brain. So it's like, you want to like, and you want to critique and look at things through that critical lens and stuff. But I find that like, if I can get myself into a habit of like jotting down just things that I'm grateful for, or like goals for the day or recent experiences that I want to remember or reflect upon, I feel like when I do that, it just like gets it all out. And then I have like this focus, like, especially with like gratitude, like you'll go through the day, like thinking about, oh, I'm grateful for that too. Maybe I'll write that later. Oh, I'm grateful for that. It just kind of frames your mind and sets the tone. I once heard that like, your health and wellness, it's like a stool, right? That has three legs, and you have like this, the mental, the physical, and the spiritual, right? And so it's like, if you don't take care of each layer of the stool or each leg of the stool, it's a wobbly stool. It's going to fall over, So I see that as a way to kind of take care of some of those tools, be it the spiritual or the mental tool, or stool, leg and stuff. And, I just find that it kind of helps me to process things, and it forces me to think through things that, I might just bury in the back of my mind. So, yeah.
Do you ever go back and read your journal?
I have a little bit. Yeah. Especially times where, times where I'm finding that I'm not feeling very successful. I find that, if you write about some of your successes and, things that you went through that were positive and stuff, those moments where you're like, you want to throw in the towel and be like, this is too much, Right. I find going back, it's can kind of like keep you centered and remind you that like everything passes, everything comes and goes, and there's ups and downs in life, and that's an experience for everyone. Right. And so I think it keeps you anchored a little bit and, allows you to kind of have that thing. And who knows, someday when I'm long gone, maybe my kids will want to look at it as well. But,
right.
But it's just a good reflection tool. So,
you mentioned your kids, and you don't have to go into great detail.
Yeah.
I know you're a very private person, even though you're in the public eye and your whole family's in this district, just like mine.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your wife and your kids.
Yeah. So my wife, Ashley, she's a kindergarten teacher at Village Elementary. She's such a great teacher. She's, we're very different. Our personalities are very different, but, she's that teacher that she's been doing it for 15, 20 years in the same classroom, doing the same grade level. She's a kindergarten teacher, and she hasn't lost her passion. She gets excited. So it's like, she's a super healthy person to be around. She's just been a good balance for me. And then we have 3 children together. We have Adeline, who is going into Merton Williams next year. She just finished up her time here at Quest. And Olive, who is going to be a 6th grader here at Quest. And then we have a little guy, Bennett. So he's the little brother with 3 moms, essentially.
Right.
He'll be 3 in December. So keeps us very, very busy, with 3 kids. Like, there's never a dull moment. And we are constantly running and, going to sports or wherever, and just balancing those demands. So that's my my first job. So,
Good.
yeah.
Now you have your kids in
Yeah.
Quest. What was that like? Did they ever?
Yeah.
First of all, I'm not saying that's a negative thing,
Yeah.
but like, when you have your own children there, did they ever feel pressure to live up to Dad?
Yeah, definitely.
And they haven't let you down, of course.
They were. I always saw it as a really unique opportunity. Like, I mean, how many people get to have their children in their school,
Right.
and to see them every day. And,
Right.
if you're having a bad day, you just go and look at them, and it kind of recenters you, or you get a high five or a hug from them, But, it's funny because my oldest daughter, Adeline, we were talking recently because she's just finished up her time at Quest and had her whole moving up ceremony and everything. And, we were talking about what was that like? Like, your dad, that's a really unique experience to have your dad as the principal, or you're a parent in the school with you. And she said she's really excited for Merton Williams. She said it was hard. She liked it when she was younger, but as she got older, it became, kids making comments like, "Oh, don't say this, the principal's daughter's here," stuff like that. So I think for her, it's about identity and having her own identity apart from me. So she's really excited to go to Merton Williams. It's a small school too, right? So it's not like, she sees me every day here, and, I'm not, it's not like I'm at the high school where she may not see me because I'm busy and it's such a large building and stuff like that. She would see me all the time. And so I think for them, it's, they enjoy it, and there's a lot of perks to getting to go to work with Dad and everything. But, a lot of mornings, that chaos that we talk about from 8 to 8:30 when we arrive, and we're just getting the day ready, and, they're constantly getting kicked out of my office because I had to talk with someone or a meeting, or, so it'll be nice for them to kind of carve their own way. So,
yeah, true.
It's been really, really great. The staff has been so good with them, and, treat them like any other kid. And, they have really formed some good friendships, and, I couldn't be more grateful that it's been a good experience that, I'll definitely miss having Adeline here next year. So, but it'll be good for her.
For those that don't know, we have 3 elementary schools here in the district. Talk a little bit about the differences between the size of the different buildings and whatnot.
Yeah, so Hilton has 3 schools, and 2 of those schools, Northwood and Quest Elementary, they're zoned based on where you live. Northwood serves more North Greece, and then Village Elementary serves the community, or like the village of Hilton, and then in like the surrounding area. And then Quest is what's called a school of choice. So it's basically no matter, as long as you're within district boundaries, you're eligible to attend Quest. So it's just an application system. Parents do some research. We do an information night. We try to highlight those things that are the same. I think we have 3 great schools, and then, but there's things that make them unique and different. And, so it's a good opportunity for the community to have that option, have that choice. So we take applications, and then, for the kindergarten students in like around February, we do like a lottery. So we go on a Zoom, and, kind of everyone gets a number, and then we do it that way. So, but, all schools, like, we all follow the New York State standards. We all have local curriculum,
Right.
I think the one thing that makes us different is we have a multi-age approach. I was not familiar with that. I knew of it because I worked at Village Elementary, but I'd never taught in a multi-age class. I wasn't really sure what that would look like and feel like. And when I started as the principal, that quickly became one of my favorite things. It's like, in your classroom, you have a range of learners,
Right.
right? And it's the same idea. The only difference is the ages are wider,
Right.
and that sometimes makes the learning experiences and gaps and skills a little bit wider as well.
Right.
So, you go back to schools being a one-room schoolhouse where they were naturally multi-aged.
Right.
So there's a lot of, and what I've seen this with my own children, there's a lot of like leadership opportunities and experiences that you get from being in there a second year. So, for example, my fifth grade daughter, Olive, she was in a class last year. She was half the class is fifth grade, half is sixth grade. So she came in as one of the younger kids, and now this year she's one of the leaders. So she's going back to the class. She knows the teacher, knows the expectations, and she'll have an opportunity to kind of step into like a leadership role, I just think that's cool. And I think that's natural. And I think that represents like what real life is like. We don't work in settings where it's everyone the same age as us, and then
Yes.
and sometimes when you get to like high school and such, you might be in a class your freshman year with some 10th graders.
Yep.
Or
Yes.
who knows. So it kind of, it's just elementary schools that have like the the single age assembly line, so it's a different approach, but we do single aged math, single graded math and stuff, and when the Common Core standards came, that had to change and stuff. But like throughout the day, you run a literacy workshop and you do your planners, your units of study. And it's easy to differentiate, and, teachers just have to know their craft and know their kids and, where they are, and you build lessons and your activities around that. So it's, it's pretty cool to see. The other major difference is, we have the PYP program. So
Right.
all the Hilton schools have some component of the International Baccalaureate program. We have what's called the primary years program. And so that starts in kindergarten, and it's a whole school focus. And basically you take, for instruction, you take the planners, the units. So you typically hear unit plan, they call it a planner. So you take all your standards and your content for a given grade and you put it into a planner, and, teachers teach from that. We try to be as transdisciplinary as possible. But the PYP program is cool in the sense that like it also pushes a lot of like student agency and ownership over their learning, right? So like our students, like when we do our parent teacher conferences, our students will come to the conference and share their goals. Here's what I'm working on. Here's where I need to improve. And then later in the year, around March, they'll do a portfolio where they'll share like, here's how I've grown in alignment with that goal and the growth that I've shown. So really cool. It just creates this ownership, right? You want students to leave your school and to be, this is who I am as a learner. This is what I stand for. These are my strengths. These are my areas to improve. And because it's their learning, it's not ours, and it's going to be theirs for years to come. So it's really building that ownership. So having that PYP that pushes agency and pushes transdisciplinary learning, that's, I think, the major difference, coupled with the multi-age. Yeah. So
You mentioned just when you're the conferences between student, parent, and teacher. Talk a little bit about your communication or what you've done with parents to incorporate them into the school culture and what maybe you have planned for the future.
Yeah. So parents are really important piece of a kid's education. I remember those years where parents were highly involved and what that felt like compared to years when I taught, where like I may have some parents that I went the whole year and didn't get to meet them. You know what I mean? And so I think it's important. So just historically, this school being a school of choice, back in the day, there was actually a parent contract where they would commit to like, no, we're volunteering here and having to do that. Today with the common family and single households, and a lot of families have two parents that are both working, it's kind of tricky to expect parents to come in and volunteer. But what we have found is we have pretty high volunteerism here. Even though that contract is not like something we make parents sign or anything like that, it's like the essence of like I'm still involved is pretty strong. So we have a lot of volunteerism. We do a lot of school events. That's kind of the thing here. Like we have a feast, a sled race, a culture day, a science fun day. And, all those days include our parents, and they're a big piece of it, and they volunteer. Or, the other big piece is our PTSO, It's very strong, especially for a small school. And, parents find ways to help and to kind of be in here. And then, and then on more of the micro level, you have a lot of parents that come in and volunteer in classrooms or, for different day by day type functions, in the library, wherever. So,
So my guess is, and correct if I'm wrong, you not only know the students, but you know a great deal of the parents walking through your doors.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. You try to, that's a piece of the job, and it's building those relationships. Like, they have to feel safe, like, number one.
Mhm.
And, I feel like the more that they can know who's in charge of a building and know the teacher who's in charge of their kid for the day, the stronger that relationship is, I think the better. So this year, my hope is I want to get a little creative and do like a parent and principal book study together.
Mhm.
And hopefully I have a feeling we'll get a nice handful of parents that would join that, but just ways to like talk and converse and engage with each other. I'm want to learn about podcasting
Right,
as well. And,
right.
I appreciate you having me on and teaching me and everything, because I also think that there would be a way to give parents access to the school through those types of ways as well. So it's to be honest, this year, our school improvement team, we surveyed our parents about communication, about volunteerism. And so we're just trying to constantly be a little bit better. And, parents are overloaded with communication in this day and
100%,
age.
yeah.
And it's not, and I'm not saying that's all from the school, just their lives. Information, It's information overload sometimes. And so we're trying to be better and improve in our ability to streamline things and make it clear about our needs and working together with parents in a way that feels like, it's a win-win, and that, it keeps the kids at the center. So
Child-centered. Let's go back to you and your teaching career. Where did you go to college?
So I started, I was originally intending to go to Mercyhurst College. To me, it was about playing lacrosse.
Right.
I was a lacrosse player, and
Right.
I think at that age, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I ended up transferring back home, and I went to SUNY Oswego for 3.5 years. I'm from Fulton, New York. So
Okay.
SUNY Oswego is like, 10 minutes away from where I grew up. So I went there and I got my my undergraduate degree in childhood education. It was like a 1 through 6 degree. And then from there, I had the urge to like, let's go away from home a little bit,
Mhm.
because it was college was so close to home. So I went to Baltimore, Maryland, and I taught there for a year. It was quite the experience. I lived right in the Inner Harbor area of Baltimore, and what a awesome city and everything. So I taught as a second grade teacher there. And then, I did a year there, but it was, I was itching to be back in New York State and stuff, and had some friendships and relationships here and everything. So moved back and I got a job in Hilton as a 4th grade teacher. So I started working at Village Elementary School. I think I actually took Dr. Rudd's position, because it
Okay.
was when he was starting his admin career. And then I was at Village for I think maybe 13 years, 12,
Mhm.
13 years. I did 4th grade for a couple years, and then I did 6th grade for a while, which is where we had the
Right.
opportunity to work together.
Right.
And so did that and loved it. It was really great. And, from there I went to back to school for admin, and I was grateful to get a job in Greece as an assistant principal. And then there was an opening a year later here in Hilton. So I jumped at the opportunity to be able to come back here, because it was just such a great place to be, and I missed it. So.
So as you were teaching, then you were also taking administrative courses.
Yeah.
What was that like in terms of the workload and trying to balance a job? I think you had a family at the time.
Yeah.
And what was that like?
It was tricky. They definitely, I went to SUNY Brockport, and they do a great job of like trying to make it authentic, right? So the work that you're doing at your school can apply to like a lot of your assignments. So, a lot of the classes were on the weekends, or,
Mhm.
at the time when I went, it was a lot of like, they were starting with like hybrid type classes, where you'd go on a Saturday, but then you might jump online on a Tuesday or whatever, or have to, read a book and join a chat or whatever. So, it was a lot of work, I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed school, but, I had 2 young daughters at the time. So, having two little ones at home and trying to do that, just had to balance everything, you know, and it was a lot, but as I went through it, it was great because you start to like, you know, each class you take, you start to see that like what you're doing and the school you work in or the district you work for, you start to see it from like a higher level and a higher level and start to like all these things started to make sense. Like I never understood why they did it like that. Or you know, all of a sudden I understood, you know, what Mr. Geis was talking about when he was sharing the budget or whatever, you know, so it was a good experience. And, it didn't really feel like school because it was something that I was wanting to do and was eager to learn about, you know? So, and you kind of like, gives you opportunities to like, you know, at your own school, jump into some little informal teacher leadership type positions. And, you know, that's where what leadership really is in my eyes. Like it's, you know, like trying to do that type of stuff. And so, you kind of learn as you go and you know, but it was worthwhile. It was hard, but you know,
let you have a drink of coffee. Yeah. How many years did it take to get all that administrative coursework done?
I think it was about 3 years part-time, you know, like you do like 1-2 classes at a time and then you do like an internship. So
where'd you do your internship?
So part of it was at Village Elementary. I had it was like a January through June internship. So part of it was at Village Elementary, which is where we taught together. And then after that, I went over to Merton Williams, which that was a really cool experience because I had been at Village for a while and, you know, seeing this like this little gold mine in the middle of our district, you know, that you don't know much about, you know, or at least I didn't at the time. And, you know, I'm like, what a great school, great staff. And, you know, like that's a unique age.
Middle school, right?
Yeah. When kids are going through like a lot and they're changing and they're discovering who they are and everything. And, you know, I think it takes a special teacher in person to work there. And it was just such a great staff and really cool experience, you know, to see something different than, you know, so.
Who was your mentor at Village and then at Merton Williams?
So at the time we had Tracy Sabatel. She was our principal. And so she was mentoring me at Village through my coursework. And then I was working with Dr. Rudd because it was right when he started at Village. And then when I went over to Merton, it was Tracy. So Tracy had shifted over to Merton Williams. So I kind of went, I ended up splitting it half and half. So I had half with Dr. Rudd, half with Tracy. So really beneficial, you know, I always describe it as like, you try to be a gym rat, you know, like you're just like always lurking, like, oh, why did you do that? What did you do this for? What did you, you know, and I probably annoyed the heck out of them, but it's like, I was constantly trying to get in their heads of like, why do you do this as a principal? Why do you do that? You know? And it's funny because it's like, you know, even to this day, there's things I learned that I still use from those times, you know, just from how other people do things. So it was good.
It's interesting. I think it back to when, I'm a teacher. Yeah. You're an administrator. I don't really see a big difference between you and I. Yeah. If I were working underneath you, whatever you tell me to do, I'm doing whatever. Yeah. And there was a former union head who used to say, well, that teacher, they're destined for the dark side. And the dark side was moving on to administration. I never saw you like that. And even I didn't realize it was 3 years of your transitioning. Yeah. You made to me, what was seamless. And, you know, personally, I was sad to see you go from that sixth grade team that we did have. Yeah, but you know what? You're doing bigger and better things, reaching more people. You said you grew up in Fulton. Yeah. Tell a little bit about your elementary schooling experience yourself going through elementary school.
Yeah, so I went to Lanigan Elementary School in Fulton, and that was pretty cool. We had like an open wing and everything, and you know, it was Fulton is a city south of Oswego, and you know, a city of like 14,000 people at the time, you know, so it was a good size elementary school, you know, 600 kids or so, you know, open classrooms, you know, had the lockers and everything. So, you know, there's things that you remember from it though. I remember, you know, certain teachers and, you know, to this day, one of my favorite teachers, I had a couple teachers that had a big impact that made me want to go into education. But my sixth grade teacher, his name was Mr. Bush, and he used to sit there when he would teach us, he would, you know, twirl a pencil on his finger, and I remember learning all that. And, you know, and we had such a good connection with him, but he also would push us, you know, and I remember him, pulling me and my mom into a conference and saying, listen, Derek can be a leader or he can be a follower. It's up to him, kind of thing, and really just trying to push us to be better humans, and I feel like in the elementary years, that's when I first really had a newfound respect for teachers. I was, at an age where I could appreciate it and stuff. And, definitely a big influence. So
What were some of your hobbies or sports or clubs that you did in your elementary years?
So I was, involved in a lot of sports. I played football. I played basketball. I was really big into lacrosse. That started later elementary school. My dad also was a local scoutmaster. So I was in scouts, and my mom was involved in her church. So I was in a youth group and everything. And, when I was in elementary school, I got involved in a lot of plays and musicals and stuff like that. So it was another, I think if you asked me at that age, I wanted to be in the NBA,
right?
And I wanted to, do a musical. I kind of had both sides, being able to loved standing on the stage and acting and stuff. And, but at the same time, I loved the competitiveness of sports. And, so I did a little bit of everything. I was in the, the school band, played saxophone and the baritone sax, and, did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We kept my parents busy. So
pretty well-rounded. Yeah. Talk a little bit about your mom and dad, maybe what they did for an occupation and any siblings you might have had.
Yeah. So I grew up with two big sisters, Rebecca and Kristen. My parents were, pretty blue collar. My dad, he worked at the lab for a while, and then he shifted over, and for, much of my younger years, he was working at Anheuser-Busch, in the lab, testing the beer, if you will. And my mom, she was a teaching assistant forever. I think she did that 30 years for Oswego County BOCES. And it was always fascinating. My parents also would do respite care, where, there was a child who had autism that would come and, stay the weekend with us. And my mom would take care of the child for the family. And, my dad was involved in scouts, and, and then throughout my high school years, every year we always had a foreign exchange student that would live with us. And so my parents were really curious people, and they did a lot to give back. They were constantly trying to give back. And, my dad grew up without his dad being alive and stuff. So I think scouts to him was meaningful. And so he wanted to be a role model for a lot of kids. And, so he did that. He did an adventure crew, and, it was his way of giving back to the community. And, and my mom was just always so involved, and, she was such a good role model, she worked and did that for 30 years. And it was when she retired, it was, she just still loved it. She finished her job and still loved it, and, missed it. And, just, it was all about other people and service, and, trying to, take your talents and your gifts and use them to give to others and stuff like that. So, my parents, they worked hard. My dad, worked a couple jobs. He built our house with his own hands. He was, there was no internet at the time, or at least not that we had access to. And, he was buying books on how to build a home, and would bring people over to teach and learn and stuff. So it was fascinating. I got to be part of that process. I got to, swing on the dirt piles and jump from them. And, so my parents really taught me a lot, and, their example, and it was just a different world at the time, and just how they conducted themselves. And, it's probably a big reason why I went into education, or why, when it was time to make a decision, it felt like this is probably the right fit, so.
Are they still with us?
Yeah. They are. Unfortunately, they're separated, but my dad lives in North Carolina now.
Okay.
He's retired. And my mom lives outside of Philadelphia, an area called Downingtown, which is where my two sisters are.
Okay.
So they're both retired and loving retirement. My dad's, my mom is a huge celebrity fan. She likes to watch Dancing with the Stars and the Bachelor, and all those things. So she's always keeping busy and stuff with that type of stuff, and watching and hanging out with the other grandkids that are down there and my siblings and stuff. So my dad likes to stay busy, travels a lot, and he does a little bit of triathlon still.
Really?
He did a couple Ironman back in the day. Like I think he did his first Ironman in his 50s. Like he
Okay.
type of guy that just constantly pushing himself, and trying to learn and grow. And so, so they're doing pretty good.
Did you get your height from your dad and mom? Are they tall
Yes. My mom is, let me see. My mom is, I think 5'7".
people? Uh-huh.
She says she's shorter now, which I don't think I believe her, but she's 5'7". My dad's 6'4", so it's
Okay.
actually a little bit taller than me.
Right.
But my uncles and stuff were all like, we used to always joke like who would get taller, who would, like my one uncle's taller than my dad, and then the joke was that his son would be taller than my uncle, and I never got there, and his
Right.
son is tall too. So yeah, it was kind of like the family trait.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, behind this table, he's hiding 6'3". So you see him when he comes in a building. You said you had two older sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about where. I know where you just said where they are.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about your nieces and nephews if you have any.
Yeah. So my sister Kristen, she lives in Downingtown with her husband Jake, and they have two kids.
Is that in New York State, Downingtown?
Downingtown. That's outside Lancaster, PA.
Thank you.
Yep. So they live down there, and they have two kids, Brady and Lila. Lila's in high school, and Brady is, I think he's going into like 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Great kids. And then my other sister, Rebecca, she's married to Ian, and they have two boys,
Mhm.
Ethan and Mason, and they're both Mason would be a middle schooler, and Ethan is the oldest nephew, if you will. He's going into 10th grade.
Okay.
So they just came up recently. It was nice. They came up for a visit. We went to Niagara Falls for the first time with them, and went to Seabreeze. They got to see the famous
jackrabbit?
Seabreeze, the jackrabbit. Yeah, like I was trying to talk it down. I'm like, this isn't
It's
that
not Dairy
crazy,
Lake,
guys.
it's not
Exactly.
Hershey Park.
Yeah, so don't get too excited. But they're like, oh, this is a great park.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you
Yeah.
got to see him. Do you get to go down to North Carolina and visit your dad much, or?
I haven't been down there much. I've been
Okay.
down there once. He comes up here once or twice a year.
Uh-huh.
And it's just because of the drive with
Right.
the 3 kids, and we tend to lease our cars.
Right.
I'm like, Dad, sorry, you got to make the trip. So, but we're hoping to go down this Christmas after Christmas for a little visit. So,
Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah.
You're covering a lot of what I had on my list. What's it like working and living in the community of where you educate students and work with staff? Because you said earlier, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
yeah.
that you like to go to a local gym and stuff. So
Yep.
Not that we're pumping ourselves, but when you're a teacher or an administrator, you're kind of like a celebrity in the town.
Yeah.
Like but you also have a personal life. How do you balance that?
Yeah. Well, you notice it on Halloween, right? When kids come to your door and like, is that Mr. Warren? And stuff like that. And it's kind of all I know at this point. You know what I mean? Like I've been here since we moved to Hilton in 2010. So it's
Mhm.
been 14 years. And I started in Hilton in 2000, I think 5, 6.
Mhm.
So most of my professional career has been here. So it's fine. Like it's, there's times where if you're ready for a break from work and then you go to Tops and you see everyone and
Mhm.
stuff, and you try to be a little more private sometimes,
Mhm.
but it's at the same time, it's like this community has such a heart to it.
Mhm.
Like you go and we're recently at the the firemen's parade and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and you see the same people every year, and it's so people are so respectful and kind. Or you go to a Friday football game with your
Mhm.
family, and it's like the people, and I think it also builds trust.
Mhm.
Like
Oh, yeah.
and it's like it makes your work intentional. Like I'm over here working with staff trying to build a school alongside people, and it's a school where my kids go, and it's part of my community, right? And so to me that matters.
Mhm.
And I want my kids to go to great schools,
Mhm.
selfishly, right?
Mhm.
And that matters. And so
Mhm.
going and working in the place where I pay taxes, where I things I'll look at things through that lens of like,
Mhm.
I really care about this district, and it's a home.
Mhm.
Right. And we just talked about like my family all living away and everything. And so, and Ashley's family, they're all from Buffalo. And so, it's just her and I here with our kids. And so it's an opportunity. Like Hilton has become a home to us, and
Mhm.
many of the people we've met have become, like adopted family, if you will,
Mhm.
and people that just, it's that familiarity of, and it, so I appreciate it. When I went to Greece for the year, I loved working with Greece. It was a great experience. I worked under Kathy Groutman. She
Mhm.
was an incredible leader. But I remember being at the homecoming parade with my kids and my wife, and at the time we lived over on Cooper Drive, and we were, so we would always walk up every year and watch it or whatever. And I remember missing that feel,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That feel of being home, that feel of like safety, that
Mhm.
feeling of this is where I'm supposed to be, kind
Mhm.
of thing. And so Hilton creates that for me,
Mhm.
and through the ups and downs, like there's a huge heart in this community that's hard to explain,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of pride if you're from Hilton. And
Mhm.
so there's definitely disadvantages to working a half a mile from your school,
True.
or
Right.
from your home, excuse
Right.
me. There's times where I have to be intentional about decompressing. Like if I have a
Mhm.
bad day,
Mhm.
I don't really have much of a commute,
Mhm.
where others, like, my good friend Nick, who's guy from back home who lives in New Jersey, he's got like a 30-minute commute every day. So he
Mhm.
has a chance to decompress before he gets home,
Right.
to shut off like principal dad.
Mhm.
And so I don't really have that, and there's times where I wish I had more of a commute, but you just stay in your office, or you go for a walk, or you sit in your car for a little bit, or listen to a podcast or journal, whatever,
Right.
you do something to kind of create that hard separation of that's work, this is home.
Right.
I just think you have to be intentional with it, because that's important. So
That line you just said make work intentional. I've never heard that, but it is so apropos, I guess, to speak.
yeah.
Um, what are some? I guess we've got the Village of Hilton on my podcast right now.
Yeah.
Thousands of people.
Yeah.
Explain the mission statement, or they recently came out with 4 different
The values.
Explain a
Yeah.
little bit of that, and maybe give examples of how that can be seen in the school district, or even accomplished.
Yeah. So really interesting story. This, in education, and I think this extends beyond education, right? Back in the day, every district, every company, everyone thought, hey, you got to make these mission statements, right? Make mission statements, make vision statements, put them on your wall,
Right.
For
Right.
all to see. And Hilton did that, and everyone does that. And but the problem is, like, if you go and you talk to people, hey, how is this lived out?
Exactly.
Like, what does that look like? It starts to become this, like, you'd sit in interviews and people would like be doing presentations, and they would, have the Hilton mission statement up, and you're like, oh yeah, there it is. Values are so much deeper, right? They're
Mhm.
what unite us as people.
Mhm.
Like, what are those common values? Now, I may have a certain set of personal values that are different from yours or whatever, but when we are working together and when we're in this organization, like, what are those values that unite us? So Hilton this past year went through a process where, they were surveying community members and staff, getting them involved, and students, and they identified their core values, putting people first, welcoming and affirming of environments and everything. And so I think in Hilton, it's really, we're working really hard to make sure that the culture has this collective ownership, that this culture is about all of us, that it's a place where people want to work,
Mhm.
where they feel like they're heard and respected. I think that's the goal. That I know that's the goal, and it's been unique for me, because that's something that I've always bought into and I've always believed.
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
it's like really like as leaders, if we put our teachers first, right? There are people, we put people first, and and we do our job with integrity, which is another value,
Correct.
That impacts your teachers and their day-to-day experience, right? When the teachers have a good day-to-day experience and we're putting them first and serving them, they do the same to the kids.
Exactly.
And that's our customer. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what we're here for. And that experience. So, we have worked with a guy named Lauren Rubis, who's out of Harvard, and he's done a lot of like culture type things and helping us to reset priorities. It looks like, Hilton has invested a little more in like teacher leadership, through like SIT positions, our school improvement team positions that we have, and teacher leadership type positions, and, trying to have those opportunities where you're not just the voice at the table, you're actually helping make the decision.
Correct.
Because that's important, and that's where ownership comes from. And if everyone, if in Hilton, if we all have a piece of a larger puzzle, right? And every little area, every classroom, every committee, every whatever, it all has its own little culture. And the sum of all those little microcultures are our culture as a whole, right? And so it's all about taking those values and living them out, and really believing them and hiring for them, right? Finding people that align with those values. And when you make decisions, you make decisions through those values. Like, does adding this program align with this, or does adding this on a teacher's plate align with this, or whatever? So it's really important. And, I think as a district, it's people are really bought into it. And what was cool, this year, we always do a summer retreat.
Correct.
With the administrative team. And this year, the first day of the retreat, we had some other leaders in Hilton join us as well. All the head custodians, B&G, all the head kitchen staff and everything, all the managers and everything joined us as well. And it was awesome because everyone was hearing that same message, because it's like, we're all responsible for this type of atmosphere. So, to me, that's promising. It's a hard time to work in education, but it's also an exciting time. And when people own that stuff and take care of our environments or whatever, I think the sky's the limit. So.
You peaked what you were saying about the retreat, bringing all sets of people from the working community in the district. I just did a recent podcast with Marianne O'Brien, who was a 35-year kindergarten teacher at Village and 89 years old. And she was talking about how when they would take the kids to the zoo, the custodians would come and cook the hot dogs. The bus drivers would set out the plates. And it was just, and she asked me at the end, she said, well, what do you think needs to improve in education? And I didn't say, well, you need a new math investigation series, or I said, that's what we have to do.
Yes.
And when you incorporate, you can't just say, let's be collaborative, but man, incorporating all of those
voice and empowerment, right? Like, I think about, like, we had some experiences this year where it's like, I could sit there and tell you, like, our head custodian, Mr. Manier, he will engage with the kids. Like if they're doing something they're not supposed to, he'll come and talk to me about it or whatever. And then, me, him, and the child may talk together about, like, hey, why'd you write on the wall of the bathroom?
Right.
Just that empowerment of, like, no, you have a voice here too.
Right.
You're a leader too.
Right.
And can't do it alone. And it's like, that's exciting and stuff. And everyone sees that, like, I have the ability to make some type of impact in whatever I'm doing and stuff. Right. And that's where I think that's a sweet spot. Right. So
totally. I totally agree. How do you make sure that you're being visible to staff and they understand where you're coming from and your expectations?
I think visibility is everything as a building leader. I purposely, like, if I have email time, right? Time where I'm just like having to catch up on emails or whatever, like, or I have holes in my schedule where there's no meetings, I'll put in my schedule, like, visiting classrooms, or I'll bring a desk in the hallway and work out in the hallway.
Right.
Because people need to be able to see you. And that's how, like, as a leader, you're constantly doing, like, your little formative assessments, and you have your finger on the pulse of the school. Like, how are things going? Are people stressed out? Is there a roadblock that's impacting someone right now that I can help with? It's my piece of the culture, if you will, right? Being able to be visible and to see people every day. And, I find that those times where you're not visible, end up with more emails, and you end up with, so Merton Williams, like one thing that they've been doing is, the administrators there, they like during the lunch times, they literally stand in the hallway and every day they're committed to being out there, and people know they're out there. So they'll come and ask them questions versus sending the email, which is like, who doesn't love a face-to-face interaction versus having to use a keyboard, right? They will, the kids will go up and talk to them and stuff. So I'm like, that seems to be very important with school leadership, at least, and I do see that modeled. I work here at Quest, and we are attached to central office. So, from the moment I started here, I'm so used to seeing Dr. Kosorik walk the halls, or Mrs. Polini, or, just staff members that might work for central office that they come down, and instead of sending the email, they come down to ask the question and stuff. So I think you got to find ways to be visible, and instead of asking that person a question through email, like, let me go talk to them and ask them the question, or like there's ways to do it. And you just have to like make sure that nothing else trumps that.
Right.
Because if you don't have that quickly, people will feel like they're not supported. So
you received an award, nice recognition. To explain a little bit what that was.
So the administrative union has, we're broken into regions. So we're called Region 11, which is like the Finger Lakes and all of Monroe County and stuff, and some of the surrounding areas. So I was nominated for the Saney's Region 11 Administrator of the Year for elementary school principals. So really cool, really neat opportunity and everything. So
you were more than nominated there.
I won it. Yeah.
Okay, you won it.
I won it. Yeah.
Now, how did they let you know, make you aware of it? Did they give you a phone call? Was it an email? Did someone show up with a Golden Apple Award?
Yeah.
Like, how did they let you know?
So I got an email saying that I had won it, and they made an announcement to the region or whatever. And then they had like a little award ceremony out in Penfield, where I was able to, bring a few of my colleagues and everything. And it was really, really nice and thoughtful. So it's not, it's a little awkward, like it's,
right.
It is what it is, but it's every once in a while, it's nice to know you're doing the right thing.
Well, congratulations. I can
you,
see that you deserve,
Appreciate
greatly deserved. Well, I'm not going to get into retirement on this next question, but where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years. So I have to be honest, my goal was always to be a principal. And so it's like right now things are we continue to grow and improve as a school community, and I'm happy to be here at Quest. I'm surrounded by some really awesome people. So I could honestly see myself still at Quest. The only other thing that I have a personal vision for is at some point in my career, maybe towards the later years when I'm getting closer to retirement, doing some leadership coaching and stuff. I really find it was, I had a mentor, Jim Thompson, and, people that I have worked with through my years as a leader. And it's like, if I've learned anything, it's how lonely a principal position can be.
Right.
Cause you're sometimes standing alone, and sometimes you have to make decisions that make people upset that you care about. And sometimes you have to be the one who people are mad at. And, having those mentors to kind of get you through those moments and to give you feedback or to bounce things off of, it's so important, so any opportunity that I have in my future to be able to do the same for others and, coach other leaders or work with people, on their leadership journey and, and what that looks like for them, I would jump at that opportunity. So
I believe that when you're self-aware, your good qualities and qualities you need to work on. What are some qualities that you believe that you possess that have helped you in your job as a leader, and maybe someone that you're working on?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, like some of the things that have worked for me are just, I come from a genuine place of care for people.
Yep.
Like my why, right, is I have it plastered on my wall. Like, why do I do this work? And it's all about like building an environment where people want to work here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I feel like this is a big portion of people's lives. And if they're happy, like you're adding value to their life. And so for me, and that all goes back and trickles down to the kids and so for me, I think being part of that, and I'm a pretty passionate, curious person who's constantly reading and trying to be better and stuff. And I have to continue to work on those things that we were talking about earlier, being balanced, that self-care. I got to constantly work on my stress management because I find that like the highs are high and the lows are lows.
Correct.
And when you're going through tough times, it's really easy to just kind of get in your own head and just be like, and so constantly having to monitor myself in that way and remind myself that, that you're doing what's right for kids. There's a lot of times, in this role, you don't get a ton of feedback from everyone, like it's you on a day-to-day basis, you're dealing with a lot of problems and problem solving and, working with people and stuff. And so, learning to continue to grow myself and to lean on people and stuff like that's really, what I've been working on, and trying to grow in and stuff. And, and just, continually looking at systems and, that's become a strength, I think, but it's, you learn that like you have to constantly lean on other people too, right? Because it's such a big task and stuff, and you need people. You need great people around you because they keep you in check, and they know the school, they know the kids, they know, so really, I just want to continue to be curious and grow and stretch myself in those areas.
When I reflect on you early on in the year, we went through those vertical team meetings. And for those that don't know what a vertical team meeting is, you get everyone in a school from different grade levels, different departments, and you were substituting and leading that one meeting. And the way you led that meeting, I've never seen people that were maybe squeamish to talk personally about uncomfortable things. And me, I was able to speak my opinion or whatever, and I felt listened to. You were able to conclude what I said, and other people were able to say what they felt and they believed, and they felt listened and never in fear of being judged. And I truly felt that was because of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
You're welcome. And I think you definitely have a future in leadership positions and whether mentoring.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
A couple things to wrap it up here. What's your favorite food?
Oh, I love food, Mike.
Like food?
Food is.
Well, like you give me three.
Food is my stress reliever. Unfortunately,
comfort food.
I got to go with pizza first and foremost. I was just talking to someone the other day about pizza, and it's like, is there a bad pizza? Right? Like,
I don't think so. It's just a matter of
there's
toppings.
Better pizza,
right,
exactly. But
right.
like you can even go into a gas station and like the pizza's still good, even if it's not great. So definitely pizza.
Okay.
It's like you can't go wrong with pizza. Pizza, and then I'm gonna go with chicken parm.
Okay.
I love to eat at the Arlington.
Yeah.
So my wife and I, every Saturday, it's like our takeout day, and I always
date night. Oh no, you get a takeout.
We get to go.
Okay.
We get to go. But I always get their chicken parm. So I love the chicken parm. And
shout out to the Bond family.
Yes,
Yeah.
love them. And last but not least, I would go with some old fashioned like roast pork lo mein.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
I didn't notice I didn't say any vegetables.
What do you like on your pizzas? Is it just regular cheese or pepperoni?
I like pepperoni.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if it's like a brick oven style pizza or wood fired or whatever, I wouldn't mind like some little ricotta clumps or
right.
or some chicken or peppers. Yeah, get crazy.
Favorite movie?
Oh man.
Inspirational, tearjerker.
Yeah.
Classic. The last one you saw, Monsters Inc. now because you're a father.
Yeah. So right now we're watching the Invisible. Or is that what it's called?
I don't know. You
with
probably
Dash and everything. Those
Yeah.
little characters. Bennett likes Moana, like that one.
right.
I like The Blind Side.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like that movie.
Right.
You know, I anything that's like a little bit of inspiration in it.
Okay.
And stuff. I like things with sports too.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, it was always Mighty Ducks. I love the Mighty Ducks.
Book. Now I know you're an educator. Maybe you get into a lot of educational books, maybe self-help. Give me your favorite book.
Ooh, this is an even tougher question. I would say I read a memoir not too long ago called Educated.
Mm-hmm.
That was fascinating. And it was about a lady who, grew up in a rural part of the world. They were very, trying to, do everything on their own, and kind of had a very turbulent upbringing in childhood and everything. And it's her rise and what learning did for her. So probably that book, to be honest. So I've been trying to get into a lot more fiction because I'm like, it's perfect for like shutting your mind down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Back in the day, I would read a lot of like, I loved like Freakonomics. I liked some of the Malcolm Gladwell books. I liked some John Maxwell books on leadership. We just read a book this year called Radical Candor with the admin team, and that was great. And it's all about being able to have those honest conversations with people, but also doing it in a way where you care. Right. And
Right.
crunchy conversations, if you will.
Right.
That was a great book. So constantly reading, and, I like to listen to a lot of podcasts too.
Right.
So big podcast person. So
Anyone in particular that you can recommend to me that?
one of my favorite is the Huberman Lab.
Okay.
So that's on a lot of health topics and stuff
Okay.
like that, but usually pretty longer, like 2 hours. But he's a neurobiologist out of Stanford. And so he breaks all the science apart, and it's interesting. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think.
Well, one of our
He's a
tenets
favorite.
is being a lifelong learner. So with your
It
journaling, your reading, your podcasts.
Yep.
Favorite quote. I mean, I used to see one on your email, your closing.
Yeah, I think over time it's more of a phrase, like just carpe diem.
Okay.
My 8th grade teacher said that to us, just meaning seize the day. The older I get, the more I'm adopting this mindset of like every day counts. And, and so I that phrase is one that always, or I used to say win the day, which was Chip Kelly. I'm an Eagles fan, unfortunately.
Right.
But, Chip Kelly was their coach for a bit, and he used to have plastered on the wall, win the day, for the Eagles and stuff. And it's just about being, 1% better every day. And like, what do I got to do for today to make it good?
Okay.
And if this job has taught me anything, it's that each day counts, and each day, you got to bring your A game, and each day is going to be different. So I feel like that kind of represents where I'm at in terms of my headspace. So
I like it.
Carpe diem.
So you're not working. Maybe you get some personal time away from the family, which I know you don't really like a lot. What's your favorite leisure activity? Is it?
Love to hike. I've gotten into, have you heard of rucking before? So
You've taught me a lot of words today that I gotta go look up.
Rucking is it's what the military does, right? So it's basically hiking or walking with a weighted backpack.
Okay.
So I love to like throw that on and go around, Duran Eastman. I know it sounds crazy. There's
sounds
though, and
it sounds helpful.
yeah, but it's like I love to like, or even on like a Saturday morning, go for a 3-mile ruck where you throw on the pack and you put a podcast in and you just walk for an hour. I find that like usually if I do that, it's a good day. So that's like a really
cool
leisure activity where you got to clear your thoughts and stuff, and just walking with a weighted pack, and it helps the heart rate a little bit, gives you cardio without. I'm kind of past the stage of I don't run too much anymore.
Right.
I do like I bike or but hiking and walking with a pack, it always seems to get the heart where I need it to be.
How about music? Do you have a particular band or genre that you like?
I love the Lumineers and Chris Stapleton. I always liked country, and then, right now we're listening to a lot of Cocomelon with Bennett. Do you remember him? You even know who Cocomelon is?
I don't.
Yeah, JJ or whatever.
Okay.
It's all Bennett's music right now. He kind of runs the show. My daughters like Olivia Rodrigo.
Right.
and sometimes
Tay-Tay?
Taylor Swift
Yeah.
or whatever.
Right.
My daughter told me she was a Swiftie this year.
Yeah.
Huh? Swiftie. Travis Kelce? Like, what are you talking about? Like, oh boy. So anything, whatever's on. So
I don't know if you watch much TV or if you're going to watch TV or binge watch a Netflix show with your wife. What do you watch?
I loved like the Ozarks,
Oh yeah.
Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Did you watch Yellowstone?
It's been highly recommended to me.
So good.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a great show and stuff. Things that don't make you think too much.
Exactly.
But yeah, love stuff like that. Right now I'm watching All American.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Been there.
It's a Netflix drama.
Right.
They
Right.
just
Is that the
released
football
season 6.
show?
Yes. Yeah. Season 6.
Tay Diggs or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's a good program.
It's good.
What's one item from your bucket list?
I want to travel cross country.
Okay.
I feel like we live in the most beautiful country, and
Mhm.
there's so many, places to go, and we're at this. Our kids are at an age where we plan a lot of our vacations around the kids and stuff. But I want to get out to like the West Coast and start up top and go all the way south and travel. I want to go to the Grand Canyon, Montana. I want to see Yellowstone,
Cool.
and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a lot of. I really like any vacation where you get to see some natural wonders and stuff like that. Like that would be my cup of tea.
My last question before we get the final thoughts.
Yeah.
What's one person from history you'd like to have dinner with?
Oh, great question.
I mean, it could be historical figure, family member, or whatever.
Yeah. I would say probably, I'm going to go all the way back to Abe Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he, there's just so much to learn from him.
Mm-hmm.
I read a couple books on him, or started to read books. They were pretty dense, but,
Right.
And I'm not much of a history buff, but, his views on leadership
Mm-hmm.
and his intentionality with communicating. I once read how he would, when he was upset, he would write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And, and after he passed, they found literally letters that he had written to generals that were
Mhm.
like blaming them for losses in wars and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And he never sent them, right? But it was his way of processing what he was going through.
Right.
So I think he would be fascinating to just like talk to. Other than that, probably like my dad's dad passed away when he was younger,
Right.
so I never obviously got to meet that grandfather.
Right.
So I'd like to get to know him a little bit to understand
Sure.
my dad better and stuff. So
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So my final question, about 50 yards from here, you got that new parent coming in and they're a little nervous and they come to Principal Warren and they ask, what's your school all about? What would you tell that parent?
we're about family,
Mm-hmm.
and you're part of this school too, and we'd ask them, what do you need to feel better?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to come into the school? Do you need to, want to go sit down and talk? Want to have a cup of coffee? Whatever it takes, because it's, it doesn't matter what parent it is. The one thing that we have in common with those parents is a care for their kid.
Mhm.
And we both want the kid to be successful,
Mhm.
and we want the kid to feel safe. So, it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I would invite him in, help him be part of it. So.
Your history in education is not done, but what you've done so far and what you plan to do in the future, what do you want your legacy to be? Or is it?
I would want people to say that he really cared,
Mm-hmm.
that he sincerely cared,
Mm-hmm.
because I've made plenty of mistakes, a lot of ups and downs,
Mhm.
obviously in any of one's career. But I want them to look back and say, when that guy, when I worked with this person, or when I was his colleague, or when he was my leader, I just never doubted that he cared.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, from working with you and watching you move on, I can definitely say that you're definitely a genuine, caring person. And I really appreciate you being on the Big H podcast.
Thanks, Mike. This was awesome.
Good. And
catch
I
up
look
with you.
forward to giving you a little tutelage on how to get your own going.
Yes.
And,
Absolutely.
But guests, please tune in for the future. This has been Mike Heise with Derek Warren, principal of Quest Elementary. Words with Warren. Have a good one.
The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find. The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore